My name is Juliet Dayne. I'm 30 years old and a colonel in the U.S. Army. Tomorrow, I'll be in an important meeting about a defense contract, with my father and brother sitting across from me. They don't know yet that I'm the one from the Pentagon who has the final say. 5 years ago, I walked out of this house and didn't look back. I was tired of being the disappointment, the daughter who chose the army instead of going to business school. My dad once told me that the army was for people who had no other options. That was the last real conversation we had. Tonight, I'm back home for dinner. My mom will talk about my brother Logan's latest promotion. My dad will nod proudly. Someone will ask if I still move around a lot. I won't argue. I won't correct them, because tomorrow, when their boss calls me Colonel Dayne in front of everyone, I won't need to say anything. The moment will speak for itself. Let them enjoy tonight. Tomorrow changes everything. The driveway looked smaller than I remembered. My old car used to fit fine, but now, the black SUV I rented looked too big, too fancy next to Mom's old minivan. I turned off the engine and sat quietly. The heater stopped buzzing. My hands were dry, what the army calls combat calm, but my stomach still felt tight, like before a mission. The porch light was on, shining a soft yellow light over the worn-out doormat and the faded front door. Nothing had changed, not the cracked steps, not the messy bushes, and not the feeling I always got here, that mix of being invisible and judged at the same time. I rang the doorbell without thinking. Juliet, Mom called from the kitchen. She didn't come to the door. It's open. Of course it was. I stepped inside. The house smelled the same, like flowers. The same photo wall was there, my brother's graduation, wedding, and his 2 sons. None of me, not even the army photo I sent years ago. Dinner's almost ready, Mom said, not looking up. Logan and Marielle are on their way. Logan just got another promotion. You won't believe it. I smiled. That's great, Mom. You'll want to tell him congrats. He's in charge of the whole systems integration team now. Everyone at your father's company says he's going places. That phrase, going places, used to hurt. It always felt like something I missed out on. Now, it just sounded empty. The table was set for 6, no name cards, but everyone's place was understood. Logan at the head, Dad beside him, Mom in between, and me, somewhere off to the side. Logan and Marielle showed up right on time, as usual. Logan wore a nice blazer that said, "I'm important," but casual. Marielle brought a bottle of wine none of us really liked but would all pretend to enjoy. "Hey, Jules," Logan said as he gave me a quick hug. He was already looking past me toward Dad. "It's been a while." 5 years, I said. He looked confused, like he wasn't sure if I was joking. I wasn't. We had roast beef, mashed potatoes, and Mom's usual side salad, the one she's been making since I was a kid. Logan talked confidently about his job, company changes, bonuses, and what his team was doing for the military side of the business. Dad looked proud, like he might tear up. "And you?" Mom asked, giving me a polite smile. "Still traveling around with the army?" I took a sip of water. "More or less." "Still a captain?" Dad asked without looking at me. "Something like that." "Must be hard," Logan added. "No long-term plans, just following orders all the time?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Upstairs, in my suitcase, my army uniform was folded neatly, with the silver eagle pins that showed I was a full colonel. Tomorrow, they'd see how much I actually lead. For now, I let them talk. This would be the last time they ever talked over me. Later, I sat alone in my childhood room, on the same old twin bed with the quilt Grandma made when I was 12. The walls were still covered with my old trophies and awards, everything I did before joining the army. Nothing from my military life was there, no photos from my deployments, no awards, no signs that I'd made it to colonel at 30 years old. I remembered when I told my family I'd accepted an ROTC scholarship. I thought they'd be unsure. I didn't expect them to look disgusted. Dad looked at me like I had thrown away my future. "The military is for people with no real potential," he'd said. "You were meant for more." By more, he meant his version of success, an MBA, a top job, and a spot at his company, Westbridge Technologies. It was always supposed to be Logan. When Logan followed that path, the family story was complete. I wasn't someone who chose a different future, I was the one who messed up. Downstairs, I heard them laughing, Dad's deep laugh, Mom's soft one, and Logan talking loudly. They sounded like a family celebrating their chosen star. I used to be bothered by it. Now, it felt almost poetic. Logan had just been promoted to lead the systems integration team, on the very military contract I was now in charge of. They didn't know, not yet. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'd walk into Westbridge Technologies in full uniform. I would lead the project briefing as the Pentagon's representative. And I would review the same work Logan had bragged about over dinner. In my room, I opened my suitcase and took out my uniform. Midnight blue, perfectly pressed. My medals and ribbons were straight. The colonel's eagle pins shined in the light. I checked everything one last time. My hands moved with practice and calm. This wasn't about payback. It was about showing up, with clarity, with power, with purpose. It was about making them see who I really was, in a way they couldn't ignore. The next morning, I arrived at Westbridge Technologies 15 minutes early. The parking lot was busy with people in suits rushing through security. I parked in the spot marked Military Liaison, DoD authorized, stepped out in full uniform, and adjusted my collar. People looked at me, some stood taller, no one questioned why I was there. "Good morning, Colonel," the guard said, scanning my badge. His tone was sharp and respectful, so different from what I heard at home. Inside, I skipped the front desk and took the elevator to the executive floor. I had memorized the layout. I was ready. When the elevator opened, the first person I saw was Logan. He was looking at a presentation on a tablet, his body relaxed, until he saw me. He blinked. "Juliet, why are you wearing, wait, what?" I kept walking. "Good morning, Mr. Dayne. I'm here for the project review." Behind him, Dad was talking with two men in matching suits. Then he saw me, and stopped in his tracks. "Juliet, what is this? Why are you dressed like that?" he asked, confused. He looked at the others, trying to figure out what was going on. Slowly, he realized something wasn't right. Before I could answer, a tall woman with short white hair came around the corner. It was Lorraine Hart, the CEO. She stopped when she saw me, then smiled. She came right over and held out her hand. "Colonel Dayne, I didn't know you'd be here in person. What an honor." I shook her hand. I was nearby, thought I'd attend the meeting myself. "Wonderful, you'll bring real weight to the room," she said with a smile. Then she turned to the others. "For those who don't know, this is Colonel Juliet Dayne, our Pentagon liaison for Project Sentinel. She has final approval on all military parts of the project." It felt like all the air had disappeared from the hallway. I didn't look at my father or Logan. I didn't need to. Their silence said everything. We walked into the conference room together. My name was already on a sign at the head of the table, right next to Lorraine's. I sat down, reviewed my notes, and waited. People started coming in, directors, engineers, team leads. Each one introduced themselves politely, the way people do when they know you control millions of dollars in funding. Some looked surprised that I was so young. Most were surprised I was a woman. But once they saw my rank, no one questioned me. Logan and Dad came in last. They sat farther down the table, quiet and tense. At exactly 9 a.m., the meeting began. Lorraine gave a short welcome, then turned to me. "I'd like to thank Colonel Dayne for joining us in person," she said. "Her guidance has helped improve important parts of our cybersecurity design." I stood up, gave my report, and explained the changes I expected before the next round of funding. I looked each speaker in the eye. I asked questions. I requested documents. Then it was Logan's turn. He stood slowly. He looked nervous. "As the systems integration lead, I've developed a new strategy for Phase 2, he said. I believe it meets our goals." I waited for him to finish. Then I spoke calmly. "Mr. Dayne, can you explain how your plan meets the speed requirements listed in the last Pentagon memo?" He blinked. "I'll have to review that section." "You'll need to. The requirements are non-negotiable. Please revise the draft and send it by end of day Thursday." He nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." The room was quiet for a second, then the meeting continued. I moved on to the next topic like nothing had happened, but everything had changed. The meeting ended a little after noon. Lorraine gave some final comments, then turned to me. "Colonel Dayne will be staying through tomorrow to continue reviews," she said. "Give her full access and support. This project is important to our future and the country." As people left the room, I felt their stares, not confused anymore, but respectful. They now knew who I was. And they knew I belonged there. Outside the room, my father was waiting. He looked like someone who had come expecting praise and instead got a harsh lesson. "Juliet," he said when we were alone, trying to sound in control, "we need to talk." I nodded. "Your office?" He paused, then pointed down the hall. Inside, the room felt heavy. My mom was already there, sitting stiffly in a chair. Logan stood by the window, arms crossed. All three of them, my old jury, gathered again. I didn't sit. I stood calmly, hands behind my back. "How long have you been a colonel?" my dad finally asked. 6 months, I said. 6 months, he repeated, almost to himself. "And you never told us?" "I did," I said quietly. "I sent invites to the promotion ceremony, emails, news articles, I left voicemails. None of you replied." He opened his mouth, but my mom spoke first. We didn't know what it meant, she said. Colonel sounds high, but we didn't understand. Why didn't you explain it? Because I stopped trying to prove myself, I said. Every time I called, you asked about Logan or the company. You never asked about me, unless it was to tell me to come home. We thought you were stuck, Logan said, like you were just moving around, not really going anywhere. I looked at him. Last night, you said people in the military just follow orders. You laughed. He shifted, uncomfortable. I didn't know you were doing all this. You never asked, I said again. My mom reached for her purse, then stopped. Juliet, I don't know what to say. We should have been there, for your commissioning, your graduation, all of it. I thought you were shutting us out. No, I said, I just stopped hoping you'd show up. The silence that followed was hard, but needed. My dad cleared his throat. So, what now? You want public praise? An apology? A note in the company newsletter? I shook my head. I just want what I've always earned, respect. For my work, my choices, the fact that I didn't fail just because I didn't live your version of success. Logan finally stepped away from the window. You reviewed my work today, and you were fair, he said more quietly. You didn't embarrass me. I wasn't trying to, I said. I was just doing my job. He nodded. You were impressive, really, you had control. It was the first real compliment I'd ever heard from him. My dad stood but didn't come closer. You've built something we didn't understand, he said. That's our mistake. We thought we knew best. We didn't. For the first time, I heard a crack in his voice, not defeat, but something like respect. He held out his hand, not for show, but like I'd seen in every military promotion ceremony, a quiet gesture of respect. Colonel Dayne, he said, I was wrong about you. I'm sorry. I shook his hand, strong grip, no anger, just peace. I accept. My mom stood too, blinking back emotion. We'd like to try again, if you'll let us. One step at a time, I said. And for the first time in years, I believed that was truly possible. 6 months later, my apartment in Washington, D.C., was quiet, but it felt full. The living room had big windows that looked out over the city. My bookshelf held a few medals, some cybersecurity books, and a couple of framed awards. Nothing flashy, just enough to show the work I'd done. That night, my family came over for dinner. At my table, in my space. My dad arrived first. He was holding a framed article. Thought you might want a copy, he said. It was from a defense magazine, featuring Project Sentinel's success. My photo was in the center, me in full uniform, standing next to General Armstrong and Lorraine Hart. He handed it to me carefully. I've had it in my office for a while now, he said, not quite looking me in the eye. Thanks, Dad, I said, that means something. My mom came in a few minutes later, holding a warm pie. Apple, she said with a shy smile. Still your favorite? It is. She looked around. So neat, so organized. How do you keep it like this? I almost made a joke about the military, but I didn't. She was trying. That was enough. Logan and his wife came last. They brought a fancy bottle of wine and a calm energy I hadn't expected. After dinner, while the dishes clinked in the kitchen and the conversation turned light, Logan pulled me aside. I used the rollout plan you told me about, he said. The team wasn't sure at first, but it's working better than before. Did you tell them where it came from? He smiled a little. Eventually, I let them think I was a genius for a few minutes. I smiled too. As long as it's working. He nodded. It is, and so are you. I never told you that. No, you didn't. Well, I'm saying it now. Across the room, my dad was looking at the medals on my shelf. His eyes stopped on one, the Cyber Defense Medal for stopping a major network attack. I read about that one, he said softly. Didn't realize you were in charge. I was, I said. He didn't say more, he just nodded. It wasn't a big celebration, it wasn't like a movie, but it was real, and that made it better. Later, while we had coffee and my mom's pie, my dad raised his glass. To Colonel Juliet Dayne, he said, who showed us that real worth isn't in following someone else's path, but in walking your own. We all raised our glasses. As I looked around, I saw something I had never seen growing up, recognition. Not pity, not just being polite, real respect. And in that moment, I understood something important. The real victory wasn't in finally being seen, it was knowing that even if they hadn't seen me, I still would have kept going. I used to think I needed their approval, that if I worked hard enough, they'd finally believe in me. But I didn't need that to be real. I already was. Walking into that boardroom in uniform wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. I didn't have to explain myself. My presence said everything. They once told me I was wasting my potential, that I wouldn't amount to much. And yet, there I was, leading the project they once built their careers on. That moment didn't fix the past. But it did something better. It proved I never needed their path to succeed. So if people underestimate you, let them. Keep working, keep growing. And when your moment comes, show up fully and calmly. Because the strongest proof isn't in what you say. It's in who you become, quietly, steadily, for real.